10 things you might not know about the escalators. Escalators. We ride them every day, whether it's in a shopping mall, a train station, or an office building. In fact, it's estimated that over 200 billion people ride escalators every year, making them one of the most widely used forms of transportation in the world. But despite their ubiquity, escalators remain somewhat of a mystery to most of us. We step on, hold the handrail, and step off, often without giving much thought to the complex machinery that's moving us from one floor to another. But escalators have a rich history, and there's more to them than meets the eye. From their early beginnings as a novelty at the 1900 World's Fair in Paris, to the modern, high-tech marvels that we see today, escalators have come a long way. And yet, despite their widespread use, there are still many things that most people don't know about escalators. For example, did you know that the first escalator was actually called the inclined elevator and was invented by Jesse Reno, an American engineer, in 1892? Reno's design was the first to use a continuous loop of steps, and it was powered by a hand crank. It wasn't until the early 20th century, however, that escalators began to be widely adopted in public buildings. Today, escalators are a standard feature in many types of buildings, from shopping malls and train stations to office buildings and airports. And yet, despite their widespread use, escalators remain a bit of an enigma to most of us. In this episode, we'll be exploring 10 things you might not know about escalators, from their history and design to their safety features and maintenance requirements. Firstly, the first escalator was invented by Jesse Reno in 1892, but it was more like a moving staircase than what we're familiar with today. This early prototype was called the inclined elevator, a name that aptly describes its design, which consisted of a series of steps linked together in a continuous loop, similar to a modern escalator, but without the moving handrails and more rugged in its construction. What's fascinating is that Reno's inclined elevator was initially intended for entertainment purposes, specifically for use in amusement parks, and was meant to give people a unique and thrilling experience. One of the key differences between Reno's invention and modern escalators is the mechanism that powered it. While today's escalators are driven by electric motors, Reno's inclined elevator relied on a hand crank, which had to be turned by an operator in order to keep the stairs moving. This made it more labor-intensive and less efficient than the escalators we use today. Nevertheless, Reno's innovation marked the beginning of a new era in vertical transportation, and his design paved the way for the development of more advanced escalators in the years that followed. Interestingly, Reno's inclined elevator was first unveiled at the 1893 World's Fair in Chicago, where it quickly became a popular attraction. Despite its primitive design, it showed promise and hinted at the potential for mechanized stairways to transform the way people moved around buildings. It's worth noting that, around the same time, another inventor, Charles Seeberger, was working on a similar concept, and in 1899 he patented his own version of a moving staircase, which was more similar to the modern escalators we use today. However, Reno's invention is often credited as the precursor to the modern escalator, and his contribution to the development of this technology should not be overlooked.